Merci Guy. Je tiens à remercier Robert et à la Fondation pour cette invitation. Je suis vraiment honorée d'être là parmi vous, dans ce super pays. Donc, merci encore. Je vais faire ma présentation en anglais. Je m'excuse si ça cause un problème. Voilà. So today, I've been asked to talk about our e-government program in Africa. I work for the World Bank, and for those of you who don't know what we do, the World Bank is a multinational development bank. We loan or give money to developing countries towards development projects. We classify countries in 3 tranches: lower income country, which are the poorest, middle income country, which are middle income, and then the higher income countries. Lower income countries are entitled to tap onto resources from IDA, the International Development Association, and this is money that comes without interest rate. They're mostly grants, and those that are not grants, that are credit, are paid after 15 years. A project ends with very, very favorable, interest rates, almost zero. And this is all with the idea of helping the country develop. What makes us different from a commercial bank? With the financial support to the specific countries, we provide a lot of technical assistance. So we bring in experts from all walks of life, experts in water, in agriculture, in information communication technology, to help our client support their program. My group is a small group at the World Bank. We're the ICT unit, Information Communication Technology unit. We work in all the world. Our biggest program is in Africa. That's what I'm going to talk about. And we are very small compared to other sectors. Other sectors like transport, for instance, are almost 40 times bigger than us. They have portfolios of 60 billion, 70 billion. Our portfolio is much smaller. It's around $2 billion, and I'll explain to you where it goes and what we do with that, and what are the impact that we expect to see. I'm going to also talk for a second about our World Bank strategy in ICT, and a little bit some of the trends we are seeing in the world today in the ICT sector. So our World Bank strategy on the ICT sector has 3 main components: transformation, connection, and innovation. Under connection, what we try to do is 2 things. First one is support and technical assistance to the ICT sector policymakers. So our clients are the ministers of ICTs, the regulators of ICTs, anybody in a country who is really having a policy role around the sector. We also have investments. We finance investments in the sector. We don't invest where private sector goes. We invest in the very rural areas or for regional connectivity where no operator is willing to go because it's not lucrative for them. And in these projects, most of them in Africa, where we help invest in broadband, what we do is we work with the operators interested to create what is called a SPV, a special purpose vehicle, a sort of public-private partnership where the operators put some money, the government puts some of its own money, and the World Bank subsidizes what is missing to make it possible to deploy that infrastructure. And we've been doing that in many, many places, a lot in East Asia, connecting all the small islands in the East Asia Pacific, a lot in Africa, we'll talk about that, a lot in the Caribbean and in South America. The second pillar we work on is the transformation. And what does transformation mean? It means everything, right? How do we use technology today to transform how governments deliver services in all the sectors? So really, this is a sector that is of importance to those of you who talked about health, of agriculture, of energy, transport, etc., etc. What makes this very exciting today is today, in 2013, it's much easier to use technology to transform anything than when we started 20, 30 years ago. There is almost 6 billion applications that exist in the public domain. Not to say that they're all useful, but a lot of these applications can be reused and adopted for a specific sector or government agency without having to start from scratch. And our main effort now are around using applications that exist, adopting them to the local users, and spending the money to actually roll it out. So for instance, if we have a good application for ICT and agriculture, instead of spending 5 years to develop it, it exists already, let's deploy it to all the farmers, the cooperatives, the local government that needs it. This is more our wish and objective than what it's actually happening, and we can talk a little bit about the challenges. Also, what is very exciting about Transform is today, somebody said it before, 6 billion people have access to cell phone. This is the biggest network humanity ever had, ever. And how do we use this in a positive way to help citizens being themselves an agent of transformation and improvement in their life, as opposed to always waiting for government and donors to contribute? So how do we transform the role of the citizen? How do we have the citizen help himself or herself and help the government, the NGO, the community? It is a big shift. It's not a simple matter because it means changing the roles of everybody. The third area, which is the most exciting, is innovating. How do we use technology to innovate everywhere? How do we build the skills to innovate? How do we create these ICT social entrepreneurs that would dream of a way to use ICT to improve water distribution and will actually make it happen? And this is an area where we are getting a lot of interest from a lot of donors around the world. We have with us a speaker from Korea. Korea, for instance, is one of our partners. We are collaborating together in several innovation centers around the world, last one being in Rwanda. We're working with a lot of governments like the UK government, the Swedes, the Japanese, to help create that innovation, and of course with the private sector. This is a little bit of a table to explain what we do in Transform. I'm not going to take you through each one of these lines, but in each one of these you are seeing a multi-million ICT application financed through a World Bank project. A lot of them do not succeed. A lot of them do not succeed because it's very difficult to introduce ICT and change management in an existing process, in an existing administration. Some administrations have very old legislation that need to be changed. So really working together, it's not only ICT, it's ICT and the policymakers and the leaders that have to work together to make everything a success. And under health and education, I just want to relate a little bit to the discussion earlier on health, where we talked about all this health content that exists already in several areas, in several sources, that could be disseminated to mothers and fathers and families in the rural area that don't understand how to deal with children diarrhea and can save life. And this is a big challenge we have. All that content that governments and donors and academics have generated for the last 10 years that are excellent, that are educational, but that are not reaching those they are intended to reach. And when they're reaching them, if they reach them, they're in a language these people don't understand. They're very academic, there's a lot of jargon, and so there is a whole level of translation that is needed to use health information, education, disaster management to help the life of the citizens of the world. This is a snapshot of our Transform portfolio. This is all World Bank projects that have been analyzed, more than 1,300 operation. And when we look at where do we have ICT components, where we have the most is poverty reduction, public sector management, and financial management. But we also have agriculture and rural development, health, nutrition, social protection, etc. And more we are seeing our clients demand through our project identifier. A lot of demand for EID. Why? Because a lot of governments want to be able to reach every one of their citizens to ensure the citizens get that service that is intended for them. Let it be food subsidy, school voucher, social protection, money, etc., payroll even. So more and more ICT in the portfolio. Here I'm going to zoom in for a second on Africa and looking at what we are doing in Africa. You see here some of the links, sorry, that Margaret and Ahmed talked about before me. This is easy, a lot of connectivity here, and these are all links that we are either financing or connecting to. We have 10 projects called RCEP, Regional Connectivity. They're on the east of Africa, sorry, east here. We have 10 countries here where we have helped finance regional connectivity through PPP. So it goes from Mozambique, Madagascar to now South Sudan. We have the West Africa portion here, connecting to the ACE consortium countries like Sierra Leone, Liberia, Togo, Benin, etc. And we have the Central Africa backbone here, which is connecting, and this is still ongoing, Chad, Cameroon, and Central Africa Republic. And we have seen, at least in the oldest series, which is this, the southeast portion of Africa, we have seen amazing results. In Kenya, which is part of RCEP 1, prices of broadband have diminished 40 times, 40 times. So just imagine, for an entrepreneur, for a researcher, for a health worker, for a mother trying to reach her son or daughter, how much that made of an impact in terms of both quality of life but also economic opportunity. We have specific projects around countries. We have Ghana, so it's not a regional project. It's a loan to Ghana to develop its own ICT sector. We have one in Benin. Dommage, our colleagues from Benin are not here. And we have one in Rwanda. So this is a little bit what we've been doing. What we are noticing, that the trends that we are noticing where we really need to make a difference, and we are trying to through these projects, is often when we have big ICT loans for a government going through Ministry of ICT, but really it affects every agency, every ministry. And so there is a need to collaborate around the different agencies, and sometimes silos government have. There is a need to have all these horizontals here, the strategies, the policies, the human resources, the enterprise architecture, the shared infrastructure and security. And when these don't exist, one needs to build them. And it's easy to build them from a technology viewpoint. It's sometimes more difficult from an organizational or human viewpoint. The vertical silos that we see, you know them very well. Each sector has its own set of applications that are very much self-contained, let it be in health, in education, or in other. But also we need the interface to the citizens, because for a long time we forgot that part. So citizen, business, government, and civil society needs to be somehow connected to these building blocks of government. And what we are saying more and more is we need a holistic policy approach. We need to have interoperability so that government can exchange data seamlessly amongst each different agency at much lower cost than what it costs today. You'd be amazed how much time and effort it takes sometimes for one agency to share data with another. So what I'm saying here is fragmentation is very costly. Sometimes donors contribute to the fragmentation. Each donor comes to a government and says, yeah, I have 10 million and I will write you a land management system and I'll finance it. Or I will commission for you a tax system or payroll. But then this application is built in vacuum and doesn't talk to the others in the same ecosystem. So something to really pay attention to, and it's never too late. Like I said, technology is there, middleware is there, but it's much easier to plan these things ahead of time if that does not exist. And in many strange ways, because Africa is starting later than most other countries, many countries don't have much legacy. So they're really trying to look at all this from a very comprehensive viewpoint. The other trend that we're seeing for the transformation is using the mobile phone as a delivery vehicle for government services. So let me focus for a second on agriculture here, Rwanda. So under our Rwanda project, we spent $250,000, which is really nothing in that big drop of project and funding. $250,000 to build a SMS-based application where Ministry of Agriculture has a database of all the marchés, all the markets, There's like 60 of them in Rwanda, and all the products. And 5 people go around every day and enter the prices in that database. Farmers can access it from their mobile phone. You would think this would work on its own. Yes, it wouldn't work on its own. So what we did under the project, we financed the phones, 7,000 phones. We financed the training. We financed the free hosting of the application, and we financed through the 3 mobile operators the sending of the text for free. That's what it took. Because a lot of people don't want to spend 10 cents to maybe get a price, maybe not. You are not very innovative when you have very little disposable income. You really cling on to what you have. So what we did for 2-3 years is to subsidize the minutes, subsidize the hosting, and talk a lot with the 3 operators, thanks to the regulator who helped, so that the 3 of them would carry that system through the same short code. So it's not just you write an application and it's great and they will use it. Because most of the intended recipients don't have money, you have to do some subsidizing of it. And then when you have a critical mass, usually at least 40%, which is a lot, 40% of the farmers, then you can say, okay, we're successful. It's going to, everybody's going to adopt it. Now, what is the impact? We talked a lot about food waste. Better food management, less waste, less transport. People sell their products to the market where the product is selling the highest, and the farmers have some element of predictability in their life, and are reporting better household income, which is really what we want to do at the end of the day. Next trend that I want to discuss is cloud computing. Now, cloud computing scares sometimes, and we're really talking about sharing in the cloud or using the cloud for information that is useful, that is not a state secret, that is actually a public good for everybody to use. And so how can we use the cloud with all the good information we know that is relevant to development on the cloud, and maybe with some translation layers and some easy to use, if you will, versions of that information to help the citizens of the world, allow them to have access to it, and then let them use them as they see fit, as is needed for them. So that's an opportunity we all have, but what do we need for that? We need good, affordable access to broadband. So I go back to my Connect pillar. The Connect pillar is a must to enable this societal transformation. Finally, the 4th trend is that whole open movement, right? Open government, open data. We all hear about that. A lot of courses are free now online, Coursera, etc. There's a huge openness in that society. So how do we use the element of that openness for development, all the good elements that are useful for it? How do we also use that open government efforts by governments who want to hear from citizens, who want them to participate? I know in Morocco we're working on e-participation maintenant. So how do we use all that to have the citizen, the NGO, the community leader, the local government, and the central government all together towards the same goal, which is improve the life of the regular citizen? That's a big question mark. We don't have too much long experience in that, but I go back to Kenya. So we have a project in Kenya, which is quite large, $180 million. Helped finance some of the connection to UbuntuNet, by the way, by the Kenyan Education Institute, 24 universities. But it also has a $7 million open data component. And what this component is doing is not only the hardware platform to have the data there, but also helping each government agency publish its data. Not surprisingly, the first government agency that volunteered its data is education. Education Ministry is putting all its data out there and is getting sometimes, a lot of heat for it, because why do you have these results? Why is the school not working that way? But they were ready for it, and what they're asking their citizens is give them positive feedback to improve the education system. So this is some of the things we're seeing, and like I said, it's risky, it's innovative, but it's almost a must because we are going towards this open government, open data trend. So I just was asking this controversial question. Is Africa ready to become a knowledge economy, an information society? And 10 years ago, I wouldn't know what to answer, but I've been working on Africa for 3 years now, and I think, yes, the continent is ready. You have a lot of willingness. You have a lot of leadership behind it. A lot of the youth are very eager to join that service economy. You have a lot of young people that are becoming very savvy IT or tech entrepreneur. They're benefiting from a lot of the good training, most of it free, that is happening through foundation, through private sector, through a lot of these innovation hubs that are going on in Africa. But a lot has still to be done, right? A lot has to be done in the cost, affordable, reliable connectivity, the skills. Are the skills the right ones? The education supply chain itself, of course, a major reform of the whole education systems there, and really linking skills, education, and jobs. That's very important. Somebody before talked about the big problem with agriculture modernization and the issue of maintenance and how you have all these investments in tracteurs, etc. We have the same thing in ICT. We have huge investments in Africa of laptops, desktops, servers, faxes, printers, and there's so much need for able, young or not young people to fix them. It's very difficult to find it. So how do we change the vocational training institute to produce the thousands and millions of young people who can help do that? That's complex, but it's doable. So we have a new president who asks us, give me a plan to impact the next billion. And of course, everything I had here, you all said in the last 2 days. I wish our president was here. Access to electricity, of course, sanitation, last mile connectivity for smart schools, helping the teachers, giving them accreditation, upgrade their skills. A lot of teachers have very obsolete skills. Having more means for the classroom, labs, e-books, better use of mobile-based apps. Of course, I'm focusing everything on technology here. Better use of distance learning, of mobile learning, linking all the schools, going back a bit to what Margaret and Ahmed was saying, the NRENs, etc. A lot of partnerships, linkages with industry, role models, even in the publicity, even in the advertisement, role models for the young Africans that are, kids on computers, girls, boys, all these subconscious images that are translated that way on values. And again, roles of parents and community. And I don't know, do I have 2 more minutes? 2 more minutes. I just wanted to say, we talked a lot about poverty, and I had 3 slides for you. We have these 2 goals for the World Bank. So end extreme poverty, people living for less than $1.25, by just to 3%, right? 3% by 2030. That's another goal than the MDG. And then this is the new one, boost shared prosperity. So the bottom 40% of the pyramid, help them make better living. And let me surprise you with some numbers. So what is the experience we have so far? If you look at China to the very here, China, in when was that? In 1981, this is where China was with extreme poverty. Look at it today, 12%, right? Now you follow by East Asia without China. This one, also good progress. This is Europe, Central Asia, Latin America, Middle East, good progress from 10 to 2. Look at India, still a lot to go. 33%, still below $1.25. South Asia, without India, a bit better, but 26%. But look at Africa. From 51, we are 48. A lot needs to be done, okay? And then this is the whole developing world. So from 52, we went to 21. It's very different if you look at the far right, and then if you disaggregate it by country. It's a big difference based on the country, and China made a big difference in raising the world average. Now this is the shared prosperity. This is the bottom 40% of the world. The guys who make maybe $5 a day or $10 a day, okay? And are their income growing as much as the growth of that country? Of course, you want this to be as high as possible. That's the purple one. You can't see very well here. I'm sorry, it's not showing at all. But there is a mismatch for many of these, and it's in my presentation, but you won't see it here, I'm sorry. It somehow didn't transmit. But these and these, which is for the, for the 40%, lower 40%, and then the country growth, there's a big mismatch. Like it would be here for Russia. It would be higher, showing that there is a mismatch between the growth for the 40%, but the average growth for the country. So that's what we, oh, here it is. Here it is. You can see it here. So the countries, like, look at Egypt towards the very back here. Egypt has, a growth rate of the bottom 40% and, accumulated GDP, which is almost the same. The highest is here on the left. It's Russia. And you see that it's not really matching. Some of these are not in sync, and the idea is as much as possible to bring them together. Somehow this picture is not exactly what I had, and it didn't transmit very well. I apologize. So you don't see that very well. My last slide is America, just to show you from 1965 to 2010. The bottom 40% is this. This is the bottom 40% in America. So in 1965, almost $5,000 a year, 6,358. This is the rest. This is the top 60%, if you will, right? So this is all I wanted to say. We talked a lot about, the bottom, sharing prosperity, where is the world going? I just wanted to give you these numbers because these are things that are really making us all think, okay, how can we do this in a world with more people and the same amount of resources? So thank you very much.